That said, why don't we talk about what is well-adjusted kids?
Mm-hmm. At Well-Adjusted Kids, we truly believe every child has brilliance and beauty, and we're here to help uncover that.
Yeah, we are basically, we are a team where parents, I'm a marriage and family therapist. Meredith has been coaching mothers for the last decade, ever since we had our first child.
Mm-hmm.
We've come together because we've decided that we've seen enough of children being pathologized, children being overly medicated, children not being accepted for who they are, and we decided that we needed to make a change, because rather than dealing with symptomology, waiting for kids to be put on medication, that they've been diagnosed clinically as depressed or with anxiety, we said we want to help parents before the children reach that diagnosis. And so at Well-Adjusted Kids, we're about showing parents how to align with their parenting styles as a couple, how to build acceptance for their child and who their child truly is, and how to proactively manage their child's behavior and teach their child how to control their emotions, manage their behavior in whatever circumstance that child finds themselves in. Because that's essentially what a well-adjusted child is.
Yeah.
It's a child that can manage their emotions, control their behavior, and thrive under any circumstance.
And it's often about proactively making choices for your child so that they can be their best selves. And we'll go into more of that in future videos about how you make those choices. There's parents who have more freedom in how they can make decisions. Others are a little more constrained by certain factors. But no matter what, there is a way that you can make things better for your child. And at Well-Adjusted Kids, we specialize every program to suit your situation and what you're able to do.
Yeah, because if you're a single mother, what you need to do is quite different than if it's an intact couple where there's dad and the mom both in the family at home, right? So there's going to be different circumstances that everyone finds themselves in. That doesn't mean though that we really work any differently. We work very much the same. Mm-hmm. We definitely encourage parents that are divorced or couples that are no longer together to work together to build co-parenting relationships that will enable their child to thrive. Most of the parents that we work with fall under that category where whether or not they're together or not, they want their children to thrive. Now you do get the odd parent who basically walks away from their family, is uninterested. That's fine too. We can help work with that parent as well. Even though they're not involved, we can show you how to get that parent involved. We can show you how to talk to your child about that absentee parent, right? Because ultimately children are well aware, we don't give them enough credit, they are aware that mom or dad is not in the household and they're being raised by one parent. They know that something's wrong. They know that they don't have the typical family that another child will have. So we teach those parents to be open, upfront, and honest with that child about the family situation so the child can make their own decisions and come to their own understanding about their own set of circumstances. We don't want to lie to children. We don't want to mislead them. We don't want to assume that we know what's best for them emotionally, and when really they're in charge of their own emotions. So we need to be upfront, honest, talk to them about the personalized situation that they find themselves in, and that's what we're going to teach you as a parent to do so your child can thrive with their own skill set, with their own attributes and their own beautiful personality, knowing that they have the skills to overcome whatever family circumstance they find themselves in.
One of the special things and different things you're going to get when you work with us at Well-Adjusted Kids is you get the years of experience that Jonathan has had working with families. And all along his coaching and therapy career, I've always been encouraging him to work with families more. He specialized in couples for a while because a lot of couples loved his approach. He basically turns traditional therapy and psychology approaches on their head, and it works really well, especially for a lot of men who don't want to sit on a couch for a year and talk about their problems. That's not how Jonathan works. But I always would watch and see just how much he saw children. You didn't see them as just like this annoying thing that was causing problems in the family. You saw them for who they were, and you would really get down to working with the family as a system. Mm-hmm. And I just was always like, work with more families, they need you, all the way from like the 2-year-olds to the 12-year-olds. They need someone who sees families the way you do.
Well, I think it comes from my background as a marriage and family therapist. We're very different than psychologists, counselors, psychiatrists. We really truly look at how a child, how a person, how an adult, how they function in the family, right? And that's really ultimately what we want to do, is we want to raise well-adjusted children. And so if we don't look at how that child is functioning within the family, we're not going to be able to help that child. Now, we have to have that understanding of how they're functioning, but really we need to reorganize the family. And I would say whether it's a toddler, whether it's a teenager, I would say their behavior is ultimately the manifestation of, and this is like going to be a surprise for a lot of you, the parental relationship. So how you're doing as a parent, either individually or as a couple, is going to be manifested by your child in their behavior. And there's research that shows, and I can point to the study, and I'm not going to be one of those type of coaches or therapists that says, oh, there's research that's showing you the study. I will link below, or I'll quote it below the study that shows, I believe it's out of Israel, that directly shows that a child's behavior is 100% dependent on the marital satisfaction of the couple. So whatever we do to improve our relationship, either that's in an intact family, or if we're co-parenting because we're divorced or going through a separation, whatever we can do to improve our relationship as adults is going to improve the behavior in the child.
Yeah, and I know that's a tough pill to swallow. And we have stories we will share about even our relationship challenges, what we went through as we were having kids. You know, our first child came along.
Before my training.
Yeah, and how that disrupted things. But, you know, it was only after we looked back and recognized that certain physical and emotional behaviors from our daughter actually was coming from us. And it was kind of hard to accept at first, but I looked back and went, oh my God, that was us thing. That wasn't her. It was hard to accept,
but it was hard to see.
Like it was hard to see in the moment.
When you're in the thick of it, where your child is, you know, throwing stuff around the room, refusing to go to school, punching their students, their peer students. It's really hard to see that maybe we need to look at ourselves as the parents of that child and say, you know, what's going on in our relationship? Because when you get on the same page as a couple, whether you're together or whether you're just co-parenting with someone that you're separated or divorced from, the minute you get on the same page, it's like 2 against 1. So it's 2 of you as a united front against your child. Now your child has probably trained themselves to understand that when I divide and conquer, I win, right? Let's go back to Sun Tzu's Art of War. So what we need to do is, as a couple, co-parents or as an intact family couple, we need to come together as a front to form that unified front in front to our child, so that we can overcome their challenges and we could show them that there's leadership, there's strong mentorship here in the family, there's love, and that child has proper role models that they can look up to make those behavioral changes that they need to make.
But you know, one of the great things about actually realizing and accepting that a big part of your child's behavior may be coming from the actual relationship between the 2 parents is that you have power and control over fixing it. When it's just your child, it can seem so impossible to fix them. You know, how do you even fix another person? It's almost impossible. We only really have control over ourselves. So once you flip that around and accept that, oh, maybe there's something going on here that isn't perfect, and that's manifesting in my child, look at it as a positive, not as a bad thing, because now you've got the power. You can do something about it. Not going to be easy. You're going to have to face up to what may not be working great in your relationship, but you can do it.
Well, and the beautiful thing is that working on your relationship can be a natural alternative to things like medication. So rather than choosing to medicate your child for something like ADHD or depression or anxiety, which clinically in the research points to a likelihood that your child will be on some type of psychiatric medication throughout their adult life, which I don't think a lot of us want to set up our children for. Especially, you know, I've worked with families where there was an 8-year-old put on antidepressant medication, and it's not a great thing. I think we can all agree. What would you want to do first? Well, why don't we look at our family situation first, and most importantly, the relationship they're in with our spouse? I would sooner jump to that type of intervention to work on that to see what positive impact that could have on the child's life than jump to something like medication, which is biological, which will have ramifications down the road for your child chemically and physically. In terms of addiction, there's signs of ADHD medication being very similar chemically to methamphetamine in terms of a substance, and it's been shown to lead to greater cocaine use and amphetamine use in adulthood. So do we want to avoid some of those potential side effects? Well, if we do, let's look at our relationship and see what type of positive impact that could have on our child's relationship.
Absolutely.